The warning signal from Research Station Kepler-4 for it to be cut through space like a knife. The sound was broken and full of static, but the fear in the voice was clear. Communications Officer Thalmara's snake-like arms shook as she tried to understand the message. Help us. ... Under attack. They won't die. They're from the Death Planet. Please send help. ... Then nothing. Just empty silence. Council Administrator Velthak looked at the message with his crystal-like fingers and waved it away. Just broken equipment. Check the systems, he said. Not worried at all, but 12 hours passed with no word from the station. Not a single message. Not even a simple "we're okay" signal. That's when the Galactic Council finally started to worry. Something had destroyed an entire research base on the edge of known space. The only hint they had was someone mentioning creatures from a death planet. Far away in the cold darkness of space, near a small blue and green world, Captain Kim was working on his mining ship called Soul's Pride. His ship wasn't fancy or military. It was just a working vessel that dug up minerals from asteroids. But when the same broken distress call reached his ship, Kim's face went white with fear. He stared at the coordinates on his screen. His hands started shaking. That's the place, he whispered to himself. That's where they took our people from New Busan colony. Kim remembered that terrible day 6 months ago. The alien ships had come to their small farming settlement. They said they needed volunteers for important research. They promised good pay and safe return. Many families let their children go, thinking it would help them build better lives. But the children never came back. The families never heard from them again. Every message sent to the council got the same reply. Research is ongoing. Patience required. Now, Kim understood what had really happened. The research station wasn't doing normal science. They were doing experiments. And the subjects of those experiments were human beings. Kim's crew gathered around him. These weren't soldiers or warriors. They were miners, mechanics, and regular working people. But when Kim told them what he suspected, their faces changed. The sadness in their eyes turned to something much more dangerous. Captain Choi's ship is 2 days from here, said his engineer Lieutenant Park. Captain Song's vessel is even closer. They lost family members too. Kim nodded slowly. He opened his communication system and sent out a coded message to every human ship in the area. The code was simple. Family in danger. Come home. Within hours, responses started coming back. Mining ships, cargo vessels, passenger transports, and even small personal craft began changing course. None of them were built for fighting, but that didn't matter anymore. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had taken human children and used them like laboratory animals. They thought humans were just another weak species from a quiet little planet. They had no idea what humans were really capable of when someone threatened their families. In the research station's final moments, the alien scientists had seen something that terrified them. The attackers didn't fight like normal creatures. They didn't run when shot. They didn't surrender when outnumbered. They kept coming no matter what, like death itself had come to collect what was owed. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth was called a Death World. Ambassador Zethkar's sleek diplomatic ship moved slowly toward the research station. Behind him, 3 military vessels stayed close for protection. The massive station floated in space like a dead giant. No lights blinked on its surface. No signals came from its communication arrays. Even the defensive weapons that should have challenged their approach stayed silent. Any signs of life? Zethkar asked his assistant, trying to keep his voice steady. Nothing, Ambassador. The entire station reads as empty. No heat signatures, no movement, no power to the life support systems. But Zethkar felt something was wrong. Research stations didn't just go dark, especially not stations with over 300 crew members and the latest security systems. He ordered his team to dock with the station's main bay. The first thing they noticed was the smell. Not death or decay, but something else. Cleaning chemicals. Someone had scrubbed the station clean. The corridors were spotless, but they were also completely empty. Every room, every laboratory, every living quarter had been stripped bare. Check the security recordings, Zethkar ordered. What they found made everyone go quiet. The footage showed creatures they had never seen before. They walked on two legs like many civilized species, but something about them was different. They moved with purpose through the halls, but their movements were wrong somehow. Too quick, too precise, too dangerous. These beings wore armor that looked like it was put together from scrap metal and salvaged parts. Their weapons were simple projectile throwers that used chemical explosions to fire metal pieces. Primitive technology that should have been useless against modern shields and armor. But every shot hit exactly where it was aimed. Every movement was planned. Every action had a purpose. They worked together like they could read each other's minds. Run analysis on these creatures, Zethkar told his science team. Chief Analyst Morden worked for hours before coming back with results that made no sense. Ambassador, this is impossible. According to our records, these beings come from planetary catalog entry 7834C. We classified it as a Class 12 death world. Nothing intelligent should be able to survive there. Zethkar looked at the data. The planet was a nightmare. Crushing gravity that would break most species' bones. An atmosphere that was poison to most life forms. Constant natural disasters. Weather that could kill. Predator animals that hunted in packs. Diseases that had no cure. Yet these creatures not only survived, Morden continued, they developed space travel. They learned to work together, and they found our research station. The security footage showed the most disturbing part. The creatures had taken everything of value from the station. Computer cores, weapons, scientific equipment. But they had also done something else. They had carefully, gently removed bodies from the research laboratories. Bodies that looked exactly like them. They were rescuing their own people, whispered one of the security officers. Zethkar realized the horrible truth. The research station hadn't been attacked by random raiders or pirates. It had been hit by a rescue mission. These Death World creatures had tracked down their missing family members and come to take them home. The precision, the planning, the complete success of the operation, it all made sense now. These weren't mindless beasts. They were intelligent beings who had spent months preparing for this mission. They had studied the station's defenses, learned its weaknesses, and struck at exactly the right moment, and they had done it all to save their children. Ambassador, his aide said quietly, if they can do this to a heavily defended research station, what else are they capable of? Zethkar didn't answer. He was too busy wondering how many more of these Death World creatures were out there in the galaxy, and what they would do next. Dr. Yin walked into the Grand Council chamber with a heavy heart. Her old face showed the worry she felt inside. The most powerful beings in the galaxy sat around her, waiting to hear about the creatures that had destroyed their research station. She had spent 3 days studying everything they knew about the planet these beings came from. What she found scared her more than anything in her 50 years as a scientist. Let me tell you about Planetary Catalog Entry 7834C, she began, pressing a button that filled the room's giant screens with data. The council members looked at the numbers and gasped. This planet was covered almost entirely by water. 90% of its surface was ocean. But that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was everything else. The gravity on this world is 3 times stronger than what we consider normal, Dr. Yin explained. Most of our species would be crushed flat just trying to stand up there. Our bones would break. Our hearts would stop from the strain. She changed the screen to show the planet's atmosphere. The air itself would kill us in minutes. It has the wrong mix of gases. Too much oxygen, which would burn our lungs. Not enough of the gases our people need to breathe. But Dr. Yin was just getting started. The next screen showed the planet's Surface activity. This world shakes constantly. Earthquakes that would destroy our cities happen every day. Mountains explode and shoot melted rock into the sky. The ground splits open and swallows entire areas. The council members started shifting in their seats. Some of them looked sick just thinking about such a terrible place. The radiation from their star hits this planet with deadly energy that would cook most life forms, and the predators, ... Dr. Yin's voice trailed off as she showed images of Earth's most dangerous animals, creatures with razor-sharp teeth that hunt in groups, poisonous beasts that kill with a single bite, animals larger than our vehicles that can run faster than our ground transports. Counselor Bretek's voice shook when he spoke. How could anything intelligent evolve in such a hellish place? Dr. Yin smiled grimly. That's the incredible part. Not only did these humans evolve there, they conquered their entire planet. They turned it into their home. They learned to survive everything it threw at them, and then they thrived. The screen now showed human cities, human technology, human achievements, while fighting for their lives every single day against their own world. They developed science, art, culture, and eventually space travel. They didn't just survive their death world, they mastered it. Counselor Bretok asked the question everyone was thinking. How many of these creatures exist? Our best estimates put their homeworld population at 8 billion individuals. Dr. Yin replied. The silence in the room was complete. 8 billion creatures that had been forged by the most dangerous planet anyone had ever catalogued. But Dr. Yin wasn't finished. That's just their home planet. We've been checking our records, and we found something disturbing. Remember all those worlds we marked as uninhabitable? The ones with toxic atmospheres, deadly radiation, crushing gravity, or extreme temperatures. The planets we said no intelligent life could ever settle. She paused for effect. The humans have been quietly living on them for decades. Every world we thought was too dangerous, they turned into colonies. Every planet we wrote off as impossible to survive, they made into homes for their families. The council members looked at each other in shock. These Deathworld creatures weren't just tough, they were everywhere. They had been spreading across the galaxy's most hostile environments, while everyone else avoided those places completely. We thought they were just one small species on one terrible planet, Dr. Yin concluded. We were wrong. They're a galactic civilization that lives in places we can't even visit without dying. The first attack happened on a Tuesday. A small supply convoy carrying medical equipment to a frontier colony simply vanished. The escort ships found nothing but empty space and a few pieces of floating metal. The Galactic Council marked it down as a pirate raid and sent a replacement convoy. Then, it happened again and again. Captain Lee stood on the bridge of his ship, the engine runner, watching his crew work. 6 months ago, this vessel had been carrying grain and manufactured goods between colonies. Now it bristled with weapons salvaged from a dozen different sources. Missile pods welded to the cargo bay doors, mining lasers repurposed as ship-to-ship weapons. Even the loading cranes had been modified to grab and crush enemy vessels. Status report, Lee called out to his first officer. Lieutenant Nam looked up from his console. We've cleared the debris field, Captain. Collected everything useful from the patrol ships. No survivors to worry about. Lee nodded. The Hegemony Patrol had been expecting easy prey when they detected his cargo hauler. They thought one military escort would be enough to handle a simple freighter. They learned too late that nothing about human ships was simple anymore. Any word from the other teams? Lee asked. Captain Choi's group hit 3 different supply lines this morning, Nam reported. Took out a weapons shipment, a fuel convoy, and a transport full of replacement parts. Captain Song's people destroyed a communication relay near Proxima Station. The entire sector is going dark. Lee smiled grimly. The human fleet wasn't really a fleet at all. It was dozens of independent crews working together with one goal: make the aliens pay for what they had done to human families. Mining ships, cargo haulers, passenger transports, even small personal craft had joined the fight. None of them were built for war, but their crews had spent months modifying them into something much more dangerous. The beautiful thing was how they worked together. No central command, no complicated battle plans. Just humans doing what humans did best: adapting, improvising, and refusing to give up. Captain Lee, incoming message from Captain Park, his communications officer announced. Admiral Park had become their unofficial leader, not because anyone appointed him, but because other captains trusted his judgment. His converted mining ship, the Bison's Revenge, had become the symbol of human resistance. Lee, we've got intelligence on a major hegemony supply depot 3 systems over. Park's voice crackled through the speakers. Heavily defended, but they're storing equipment that could help our people. You interested? Always, Lee replied. What's the plan? No plan. We show up, we improvise, we take what we need, and destroy the rest. Standard human tactics, Lee laughed. Standard human tactics. That's what the aliens couldn't understand. Humans didn't follow military doctrine or fight by established rules. They simply did whatever worked in the moment and adapted when it didn't. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chambers, Admiral Quilton was trying to explain the situation to increasingly worried politicians. They're not fighting like a proper military force, he reported. There's no hierarchy we can target, no supply lines we can cut, no home base we can attack. They're everywhere and nowhere at the same time. But they're just converted civilian ships, protested Counselor Val. How are they defeating our trained military? Admiral Quilton's expression was grim. Because they don't fight like soldiers. Counselor, soldiers follow orders, stick to plans, retreat when things go bad. These Deathworlders fight like they have nothing left to lose. They'll ram our ships with their own if that's what it takes to win. They'll sacrifice themselves without hesitation if it means completing their mission. The truth was simple and terrifying. Humans fought like their families' lives depended on it. Because they did. Fleet Admiral Quilton had never seen anything like it in his 40 years of military service. 10,000 warships stretched out before him in perfect formation. Each vessel represented the finest military technology the Galactic Council could produce: advanced energy shields that could stop planet-killing weapons, laser cannons powerful enough to slice through asteroids, missile systems that could track targets across entire star systems. This was the largest military force in galactic history, assembled for one purpose: to crush the human rebellion once and for all. Admiral, all fleet commanders report ready, his aide announced. Quilton nodded and activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice reached every ship, every crew member, every soldier in the massive armada. For months, these primitive creatures from the Death World have terrorized our peaceful colonies, he declared. They have destroyed our supply lines, murdered our citizens, and challenged the very foundation of civilized society. Today, we show them the price of defying the Galactic Council. The crews cheered. They had trained for this moment. The Deathworlders had gotten lucky with a few surprise attacks. But now they would face the full might of galactic civilization. It would be a massacre. Set course for catalog entry 7834C, Quilton ordered. Let's finish this. The massive fleet began moving toward the small blue planet that had caused so much trouble. Each ship commander was confident this would be the easiest victory of their career. How could a few hundred primitive vessels stand against 10,000 advanced warships? Back on Earth, Captain Beak stood in the command center of humanity's defense headquarters. The room was carved deep into a mountain, protected by layers of rock and metal. Around her, dozens of technicians monitored long-range sensors and communication arrays. Captain, we're detecting a massive fleet approaching, reported Lieutenant Shin. Long-range scanners show. It's hard to believe the numbers. How many? Beak asked, her voice steady, despite the fear she felt inside. 10,000 ships, maybe more. All military vessels. They'll be here in 3 days. Beak looked out through the reinforced windows at Earth's defense fleet. 200 ships floated, in orbit around their homeworld. Most of them were converted civilian vessels, cargo haulers with welded-on weapons, mining ships with improvised missile launchers, even passenger transports that had been turned into makeshift warships. It wasn't much to look at compared to the approaching alien armada. But Beak knew something the aliens didn't. Earth wasn't alone anymore. Open communications to all human colonies, she ordered. Send the emergency code to every settled world. Her communications officer, Sergeant Moon, began working frantically at his console. Captain, some of the colonies are 20 light-years away. It'll take time for ships to reach us. They won't be coming here, Beak replied, a grim smile on her face. We're going to meet them halfway. For the past 6 months, while the aliens thought they were chasing a few dozen human ships, the truth was very different. Humans had been quietly settling the galaxy's most dangerous worlds for decades. Every planet the Council had marked as uninhabitable, every system they had written off as too hostile for life. Every corner of space they considered worthless. Humans had made homes there. Send the message to all colonies, Beak continued. Full mobilization. Every ship, every crew, every family that wants revenge for what they did to our people. It's time to show these aliens what happens when you threaten human children. The message went out across dozens of star systems. To the mining colonies on worlds with crushing gravity. To the research stations orbiting radioactive stars. To the farming settlements on planets with poisonous atmospheres. To every place humans had learned to call home despite impossible odds. Within hours, responses started coming back. Not just acknowledgments, but promises. Every human colony was sending ships. Every family that had lost someone to alien experiments was joining the fight. The aliens thought they were bringing 10,000 ships to crush a small rebellion. They had no idea they were about to face an entire civilization that had been forged in the fires of Deathworlds and tempered by the loss of their children. The Battle of Souls started exactly at 8 in the morning, Galactic Standard Time. Admiral Quilton watched from his command ship as the human fleet approached. 200 small vessels rising to meet his 10,000 advanced warships. He almost felt sorry for them. This will be over in minutes, he told his officers. Prepare to accept their surrender. But the humans didn't send any surrender signals. Instead, they did something that made no sense at all. Captain SEO's mining ship, the Dagoose Hammer, suddenly broke away from the human formation and accelerated straight toward Quilton's flagship. Not to attack from a distance like any sane pilot would do. It was flying directly at them like a missile. Sir, that vessel is on a collision course, reported the tactical officer. Should we destroy it? Of course, Quilton replied. One shot should be enough. But the human ship didn't slow down when the energy beams hit it. Its shields failed, its hull caught fire, and pieces of metal flew off in all directions. Yet it kept coming. Inside the Dagoose Hammer, Captain SEO's bridge was filling with smoke. Sparks flew from damaged computers. His engineer called out over the noise. Hull breach, in 3 sections. Captain, fusion reactor is going critical. Perfect SEO, replied calmly, as if this was exactly what he wanted to hear. The mining ship smashed through the flagship's shields and crashed into its hull. In the split second before impact, Captain SEO triggered his ship's fusion reactor to explode. The blast tore through both vessels, destroying the Galactic Council's most advanced warship in a ball of nuclear fire. Admiral Quilton barely escaped to a backup command ship, his mind struggling to understand what had just happened. They committed suicide just to take out one of our vessels, he whispered in shock. But that was only the beginning. Across the battlefield, Human ships were doing things that defied everything the galaxy knew about space combat. Captain O's converted cargo hauler was spinning through the void like a dancing leaf, dodging missile strikes that should have been impossible to avoid. His crew was manually aiming mining lasers with deadly accuracy while their ship pulled maneuvers that created gravitational forces strong enough to crush normal beings. "How are they still alive?" demanded Quilton's new tactical officer. "Those acceleration forces should turn their bodies into liquid soup." The answer was simple, but terrifying. Humans had evolved on a world where surviving meant your body could handle punishment that would kill other species. Earth's crushing gravity had made their bones dense and strong. Constant danger had given them reflexes faster than computer systems. Daily survival challenges had taught them to think clearly even when death seemed certain. Captain Jung's passenger transport had been converted into a ramming vessel. She aimed it at a council cruiser and accelerated to maximum speed. When the enemy ship tried to dodge, Jung's crew used their ship's cargo bay doors like wings, adjusting their flight path in ways that seemed impossible. "They're using their ships like living creatures," observed one council captain in amazement. "Not like machines, but like extensions of their own bodies." Human tactics made no sense by galactic standards. They wasted ammunition on shots that seemed impossible. They took risks that any sane military would call suicide. They fought damaged ships until the very last moment instead of retreating to safety. But it worked. Captain Min's mining vessel had lost half its hull to enemy fire, but his crew kept fighting with weapons that should have stopped working hours ago. They held their positions with broken life support systems, breathing through emergency masks while firing salvaged weapons at ships 10 times their size. "They don't know how to quit," Admiral Quilton realized with growing horror. "Even when they're dying, they keep fighting." The human fleet was outnumbered 50 to 1, but they fought like each ship was worth 100 enemy vessels. Every human pilot seemed willing to sacrifice their own life to take down alien attackers. Every crew member treated the battle like it was personal, because it was personal. These weren't soldiers following orders. They were parents, siblings, and friends fighting to avenge their families. Admiral Quilton was starting to understand the nightmare he had walked into. His mighty fleet of 10,000 ships was being torn apart by just 200 human vessels. These Deathworld creatures fought like living weapons, turning every battle into a personal war of revenge. But just when he thought things couldn't get worse, his sensors officer called out with panic in his voice. "Admiral, new contacts on long-range sensors. Multiple fleets approaching from ... from everywhere." Quilton rushed to the tactical display. What he saw made his blood freeze. Red dots were appearing on the screen from 17 different directions. Ships were coming out of hyperspace all around the battle zone, hundreds of them. Then thousands. "Sir, the new vessels aren't coming from Earth," his aide reported, his voice cracking with fear. "They're approaching from 17 different star systems." At first, Quilton felt confused. Where were all these ships coming from? Then the terrible truth hit him like a physical blow. The humans hadn't been living on just one planet. They had been spreading across the galaxy for decades, settling on worlds that everyone else had written off as completely uninhabitable. Captain Gang's fleet was the first to arrive. 50 ships emerged from hyperspace near Mars, their hulls glowing with radiation that would kill most species just from being nearby. These vessels had come from Kepler 438b, a world blasted by deadly cosmic rays that turned the very air into poison. The humans living there had learned to thrive in conditions that would destroy advanced alien technology in minutes. "How is that possible?" whispered Quilton's science officer. "That planet should sterilize any complex life." But the humans had made it work. Their ships were built with materials that could handle extreme radiation. Their crews had adapted to live with levels of cosmic energy that would cook alien brains. They had turned a radioactive hellscape into a home for their families. Captain Han's fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Jupiter just minutes later. Their ships looked like they had been through a war before they even arrived. The hulls were scarred and pitted from heat that regularly melted standard starship armor. These crews came from volcanic worlds where the ground itself was liquid fire and the atmosphere was made of burning gases. The surface temperature on their homeworld is over 2,000 degrees, reported the tactical officer in disbelief. Our ships' armor would melt just from entering the atmosphere. Yet somehow, humans had learned to live there. They had built cities on worlds of molten rock. They had raised children in places where stepping outside without protection meant instant death. They had turned volcanic hellscapes into thriving colonies. More fleets kept arriving. Captain Kim's ships came from a world with gravity so strong that it should have crushed any building flat. Captain Park's vessels emerged from a system where the star threw out deadly solar flares every few hours. Captain Lee's fleet had traveled from a planet where the very water was acid that could dissolve metal. "My God," whispered Counselor Veltek, as he watched the tactical display from his observation ship. "They're everywhere." The truth was becoming clear. Every world the Galactic Council had marked as uninhabitable. Every planet they had ignored as worthless. Every star system they had written off as too dangerous for life. Humans had quietly moved in and made those places home. They had been living on toxic worlds where the air was poison. They had built cities on planets where earthquakes happened every day. They had raised families on worlds where the radiation levels would kill most species in hours. They had turned every nightmare planet in the galaxy into human colonies. How many colonies do they have? Admiral Quilton asked weakly. "We're detecting ships from at least 40 different star systems," his aide replied. "And more keep coming." The Galactic Council had been so focused on the civilized worlds with perfect conditions that they had completely missed an entire human civilization spreading through the galaxy's death zones, while aliens built their cities on paradise planets. Humans had been conquering the places where life itself seemed impossible. Now all those colonies were sending their ships to defend Earth. Every family that had lost someone to alien experiments was coming for revenge. Every human settlement that had ever been ignored or dismissed was joining the fight. The galaxy was about to learn that they hadn't been fighting one Deathworld species. They had been fighting an entire Deathworld empire. The battle was raging across the Sol system when Council Intelligence Officer Morden made a discovery that changed everything. His team had been trying to break the encryption on human communications for weeks. Finally, they succeeded in decoding the messages, flying between human ships during the fight. What they heard made everyone in the command center go completely silent. "This is for New Busan Colony," came Captain Kim's voice through the speakers. His words were calm but filled with cold anger. "They took our families. They took our children. They used them like laboratory animals." Another voice joined the communication. "Channel the children from the Titan settlement," said Captain Park. "We found the holding cells where they kept them. We found the medical equipment they used on our kids." A third voice, this one belonging to Captain Lim, spoke with deadly quiet fury. "My daughter was 12 years old when they took her. 12. We found her body in their research lab, cut open like she was just another specimen." Admiral Quilton and his command staff listened in growing horror as more voices joined the conversation. Each human captain shared the same story. Missing family members. Children who had volunteered for what they thought were harmless research projects. Parents who had been promised their kids would return safely with good pay for helping galactic science. None of them had ever come home. "Emergency session," Quilton ordered. "Get Dr. Yin and the council leadership on the communication link immediately." Within an hour, the most powerful beings in the galaxy were listening to the intercepted human communications. The emergency session was held on a secure channel, with representatives from every major species participating. Dr. Yin spoke first, her old voice shaking with emotion. "Council members, we need to understand what we're really dealing with here. These humans aren't random pirates or conquest-minded savages? Every single attack they've made has targeted one specific type of facility. She brought up a holographic display showing the locations of all human attacks over the past 6 months. Red dots marked research stations, supply depots, and communication relays. But when the data was analyzed, a clear pattern emerged. Every target was connected to Project Deep Study. Dr. Yin continued. The illegal research program that was supposedly shut down 3 years ago. Counselor Velthak's crystalline features darkened. That program was classified. How could primitive Deathworlders know about it? Because their families were the test subjects, Dr. Yin replied quietly. The truth came out piece by piece. Project Deep Study had been a secret research program designed to understand how life could survive on death worlds. Scientists had collected specimens from the most dangerous planets in the galaxy, including Earth. They had told human colonies that volunteers were needed for beneficial medical research. They had promised good payment and safe return. But the research had been anything but beneficial. The scientists had wanted to understand how human bodies could survive in conditions that killed other species. They had conducted experiments that would have been considered torture if done to any civilized species. They had dissected living subjects to study their organs. They had exposed them to deadly radiation, crushing pressure, and toxic chemicals to see how long they could survive. The research station that was destroyed, Dr. Yin explained, was the main processing facility. That's where they brought human subjects for the most invasive procedures. Admiral Quilton felt sick as he realized what this meant. The attack on the station wasn't random. It was a rescue mission. Exactly, Dr. Yin confirmed. Parents looking for their missing children. Siblings trying to bring their families home. Every human who participated in that attack had lost someone to our illegal experiments. The intercepted communications made it clear. Every human ship in the battle fleet had the same motivation. They weren't trying to conquer the galaxy or destroy alien civilization. They were families who had discovered what had happened to their loved ones and decided to do something about it. They weren't declaring war on us, Dr. Yin concluded. We declared war on them when we started taking their children. The silence in the emergency session stretched for long minutes. Finally, Counselor Bredek spoke up. How many human subjects were involved in Project Deep Study? Dr. Yin checked her records. Official numbers show 3,247 individuals collected from various human settlements over 5 years. And how many were returned to their families? 0, Counselor. The research was classified as terminal from the beginning. The Galactic Council had murdered over 3,000 human beings in the name of science. Now the families of those victims had come for justice. The surrender didn't come because the Galactic Council ran out of ships. It came because they finally understood what they were really fighting. Admiral Quilton's fleet was down to less than half its original strength. But the humans had paid a terrible price too. Hundreds of their converted civilian ships floated as burning wreckage around Earth's solar system. Yet the survivors kept fighting with the same deadly determination they had shown from the very beginning. That's when Quilton made a decision that would change galactic history forever. Instead of continuing the battle, he sent a message directly to the human fleet. I request a meeting with your commander, he transmitted, under flag of truce. The response came from Captain Beak, aboard a ship called Jeju's Dawn. It had started life as a simple colony transport, designed to carry families and supplies to new settlements. Now its hull was scarred with battle damage, its cargo bays converted into weapon mounts, its passenger areas turned into medical stations for wounded crew members. You can come aboard, Captain Beak replied, but you come alone, and you come unarmed. Admiral Quilton took a small shuttle to the human flagship. As he walked through its corridors, he saw something that shook him to his core. The ship wasn't filled with soldiers or military equipment. It was filled with families, children helping repair damaged systems, elderly people coordinating supply distribution, parents working side by side with their teenage kids to keep the ship fighting. This wasn't an army. It was an entire community that had turned itself into a weapon of war. Captain Beak met him in what had once been the ship's main passenger lounge. She was younger than he had expected, maybe 40 years old, with graying hair and tired eyes that had seen too much death. "Your people fight like death itself," Quilton said quietly as he sat across from her. Captain Beak's expression didn't change. Her voice remained cold as space. "Death is something our world taught us not to fear, Admiral. Losing family is what we actually fear." "I know about Project Deep Study," Quilton admitted. "I know about the experiments. I know about your people. Who were taken, do you?" Beak asked. "Do you know that my son was 14 when they took him? Do you know that they told us he would be helping with beneficial research that would improve life for everyone in the galaxy? Do you know that we trusted you?" Quilton felt the weight of those words. The project was illegal. Most of the council didn't know about it. "But you allowed it to happen," Beak replied. "Your civilization built a system where our children could be stolen and murdered, and nobody was held responsible." The negotiations that followed lasted 3 days. Not because the terms were complicated, but because the Galactic Council had to face the full scope of what they had done. Over 3,000 human beings had been taken from their families and killed in the name of scientific research. The Treaty of Soul changed everything. The Galactic Council agreed to completely restructure their research oversight systems. Every experiment involving sentient species would now require human approval. Any scientist caught conducting illegal research on intelligent beings would face justice in human courts. The galaxy's civilized species quickly learned that this was the punishment they feared most. Human justice wasn't cruel or violent, but it was absolutely thorough. There was no corruption, no political favors, no way to escape consequences through wealth or connections. Captain Lee stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the remaining council vessels limping away from Earth. Many of them would need months of repairs. Some would never fight again. But the real victory wasn't military. He opened a communication channel to the memorial stations that orbited Earth. These were places where families came to remember loved ones who had been lost to the aliens' experiments. "This is Captain Lee," he announced. "The captured colonists are finally coming home." Over the following months, human ships spread across the galaxy, but not as conquerors. They became the guardians that other species turned to when someone threatened the innocent. Pirates learned to avoid systems under human protection. Illegal. Researchers found their laboratories shut down by human investigators. Corrupt politicians discovered that human oversight couldn't be bought or intimidated. The galaxy had gained something it never had before: protectors who truly couldn't be scared, bribed, or broken. Because when death held no terror for your species, the only thing worth fighting for was making sure others never had to face what you did to survive. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as rulers, but as the guardians who stood between the innocent and those who would harm them.